Song Teng Kun.
Question 8, sir.
Mr. Speaker, can I take question 8 to 12 together?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Based on the NEA surveillance, the surge in dengue cases this year is attributable to 3 key factors: an increase in mosquito population, and relatively warmer weather, and lower herd immunity in our population. NEA's gravity trap surveillance system has shown an increase in the Aedes aegypti mosquito population by almost 3 times since the last major outbreak in 2013. This persistently high Aedes aegypti mosquito population increases the risk of transmission of the dengue virus. In addition, the mean temperature of the first half of this year was 0.7 degrees higher than the same period last year. Warmer temperatures result in higher transmission of dengue due to the accelerated development of the Aedes mosquito and shorter incubation period of the dengue virus. Due to our past successes in dengue prevention, the proportion of adults who have had dengue before has progressively decreased from 59% in 2004 to 51% in 2009 and 41% in 2017. This results, however, in lower herd immunity among our population, and a large proportion of Singapore's resident population remains susceptible to dengue. NEA, together with agencies in the Interagency Dengue Task Force and town councils, have stepped up housekeeping measures and inspections of common areas to eliminate potential breeding areas. In the first 6 months of the year, NEA has conducted more than 442,000 inspections island-wide and uncovered about 8,200 mosquito breeding habitats. 60% of the breeding habitats detected were found in residential premises. If you look at dengue clusters, the proportion of breeding habitats detected in residential premises is even higher, at 70%. This points to an urgent need for home and premises owners to step up their efforts to eradicate mosquito breeding habitats. NEA will enforce against premises owners found with mosquito breeding and has taken about 1,200 enforcement actions against households between January and June. Since the launch of the National Dengue Campaign in April, 89 divisions across Singapore have organized more than 1,000 dengue prevention events and activities. Mayors, grassroots advisors, community leaders, and dengue prevention volunteers have been visiting homes to share dengue prevention tips, including information on how to identify potential mosquito breeding habitats. To heighten the public's awareness, the vigilance against mosquito breeding and dengue clusters, alert banners, posters, and notices have also been strategically placed around the estate in dengue cluster areas. Poster walkers have been deployed, and dengue prevention advertorials have been displayed at high footfall areas within clusters. NEA has also reached out to the public through TV and radio commercials, as well as digital and social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. We are seeing positive outcomes from these collective efforts. As of 24th August, we have closed 863 of the 1,021 clusters formed in 2019. This weekly number of dengue cases have also come down from a high of 664 cases in the second week of July to the current 478 cases in the third week of August. Some of the largest clusters in Woodlands, Upper Thomson, Chai Chee, and Pasir Ris have closed. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all stakeholders, including the grassroots advisors, grassroots leaders, dengue prevention volunteers, town councils, and residents, for your efforts. NEA will continue to work with our partners to enhance the efforts in dengue control. From the second half of 2019, NEA will progressively deploy an additional 14,000 gravity traps to new HDB blocks and landed estates. This will augment NEA's current network of 50,000 gravity traps and enhance our surveillance capabilities. The gravity trap surveillance system allows NEA to prioritize its resources and deploy officers to focus on areas with high mosquito population. In addition, since 25th August, NEA has partnered with PA to step up dengue outreach. 5,000 volunteers from PA grassroots organization and Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT, will work hand in hand with dengue prevention volunteers to conduct house visits and distribute dengue prevention leaflets. Another new initiative by NEA is the sharing of information on areas with relatively higher Aedes aegypti adult mosquito population on its webpage to facilitate targeted action by key stakeholders, community partners and residents. The information aims to increase awareness of dengue risk in areas with high mosquito population, which might not yet be dengue clusters, so that stakeholders can preemptively take measures to reduce potential mosquito breeding habitats and avoid the formation of new dengue clusters. While the results from Project Wolbachia field studies have shown promise, the Wolbachia technology has only been tested in small study sites in Singapore and remains under research and development. It's important for NEA to evaluate the technology rigorously before deploying it on a larger scale. NEA's approach to Project Wolbachia is aligned with the WHO's and International Atomic Energy Agency's guidelines on developing sterile insect technologies using a phased approach. Each phase of Project Wolbachia has a clearly defined objective to progress the study and evaluate the technology systematically. The project is now in phase 3, which aims to determine if the Aedes aegypti population suppression achieved thus far can be sustained in larger areas. The released area covers 84 blocks in Yishun and 60 blocks in Tampines, and is 3.7 times larger than the released area when Wolbachia first started. It also focuses on the development of automation for male Wolbachia Aedes mosquito production and release to ensure scalability of the technology. As field studies require prior systematic design, preparation and historical data for comparison, they are not suited for reacting to current dengue clusters, which are very dynamic. Wolbachia technology is also not a silver bullet. It will not replace the community's efforts to ensure good housekeeping, which is still needed to keep our homes and estates free from mosquitoes and dengue. Comprehensive mosquito surveillance, source eradication of mosquito breeding habitats, and spraying of insecticide where necessary to control the adult mosquito population continue to be Singapore's key strategies for dengue prevention and control. Mr. Speaker, we are still in the peak dengue season, which stretches from June to October. The region around us is similarly seeing an upsurge in dengue cases this year. We need to remain vigilant and continue to work as a community to suppress the Aedes mosquito population and keep dengue cases in check. I urge everyone to join in a collective effort to stop the dengue transmission cycle by regularly doing the 5-step Mosey wipeout, and to remind your family members, friends and neighbors to remove stagnant water from within and around their homes.
Mr. Ong Teng Koon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was a death due to dengue in my ward this year. Many of my residents are understandably very concerned, and many of my residents have asked why fogging is being carried out infrequently as opposed to the past. So I would like to ask the Minister if he can clarify whether fogging is still an effective method to combat Aedes mosquito, and if his ministry will continue to use it as a tool. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
As I mentioned just now, in areas where there are higher incidences of dengue fever, 70% of the breeding is found in homes. So even if we carry out more fogging, what residents will usually do is close their windows anyway. And therefore, the best way is to prevent dengue from proliferating is to destroy the habitat. And most of them are within home. But do we do fogging? Yes, we can, and we must. Only to kill the adult mosquitoes outside. There is no silver bullets in whichever method we choose, and we cannot just use one method to stop this problem.
Mr. Willem.
Thank you, Speaker. A supplementary question for Minister. I think earlier he talked about lower herd immunity and attributed it to the fact that the dengue prevention efforts of the past years have shown some effectiveness. I'd like to ask him also whether there has been observed to be a change in the serotypes, the strain of dengue that is now predominant in Singapore, and whether that actually contributes to the higher incidence of cases.
There's no known significant switch in serotype of dengue strain found in Singapore. So much of this, as I mentioned, the three factors, among which is the low herd immunity, is the major factor which is causing this spike in the number of dengue cases in Singapore, rather than serotype switch.
Sang Hinki.
Minister, two follow-up questions. First, is there any discernible difference in terms of breeding sites and residents contracting dengue for private estate and HDB estates? Secondly, a lot of our residents and Singaporeans travel overseas. Are there incidents that they contracted dengue overseas because they let their guards down, or they are not aware that their regions that they visit are also experiencing a dengue outbreak?
There are clear differences between what we find as breeding places in private estate as opposed to public housing. For public housing, some of them are found in common areas, and the town council must and should take all precautions possible to prevent this from proliferating the breeding and the mosquitoes, because some of them are very hard to access. Whereas for private housing, most of them are also, in addition to being found within home, they're also found in their gardens, usually in pots which are not properly treated, or pots which collect water. So for dengue overseas, as I mentioned just now, our region is now suffering from a spike in number of dengue cases. And therefore, as we travel, please take the necessary precaution, putting on insect repellent, for example, on yourself, especially on your children, so that they do not get bitten by mosquitoes and inadvertently contract dengue.
Mr. Dennis Tan.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister, does NEA face any difficulties in accessing individual homes, whether in private estate or HDB estates, and what measures are being taken to deal with this issue? Thank you.
Generally speaking, it's not been difficult to access homes. Every time our NEA inspectors knock doors, they would open. But sometimes there are nobody at home, or sometimes it could be an elderly at home. So we try very hard to work with the neighbors to find out how we can get access. And particularly for areas which has high dengue clusters, we do not wait long. We will try to gain entry, and NEA has the powers to do so.
Mr. Nispo.
Minister, I really want to commend the very diligent NEA ground staff, and of course the volunteers who walk the blocks and the flats to educate and to warn our residents about dengue fever, dengue prevention. Minister, as you mentioned, most of the mosquito breeding habitats are in-house. we found that on the ground, many of the NEA staff and the volunteers are very helpless when they residents refuse to actually let them have entry, gain entry. Sometimes out of non-cooperation, but a lot also out of fear of the fine, the stick, that if they open and they're not sure, what will happen to them. So I was wondering if NEA could consider first issue a severe warning, get entrance to education to seek to look at the premises, and then install the fine only on the second time they visit. Because I think it's a lot of worry and fear about anxiety about someone coming to your house and straight away looking at your premises and then punishing you straight away, especially if you're not quite educated or aware yet. Yeah.
I'm quite sure if you go through some hindsight, this question has been asked before. That can we give a warning first, fine later, be kind? I think if dengue doesn't cause death, we probably could do that. But dengue is known to cause death. And one of that person could be our loved ones. I think everyone has to be responsible and accountable to take care of their homes, to make sure they don't breed. And when NEA officers and dengue volunteers go in to check their home, they're trying to help. They're trying to help also point out where possible breeding habitats could be found. And then, if found, they find them immediately. That sends a strong signal to everybody to take this seriously. Because we never know which mosquito, which breeding habitat will produce the mosquito that will kill somebody we love.